Hello and greetings, fellow StarCrafters, and welcome back to game number 4 between the Blue Terran player, Zephyr Prime, as he's playing as, but really it is Marine King Prime, and the Red Terran player, OGSTheSTC. This is obviously a Terran versus Terran, as I'm sure most of you have watched the previous maps, and this map is going to be on, match is going to be on Shattered Temple, the map Shattered Temple, which is the updated version of Lost Temple, designed to be a little bit more fair, especially for Zerg players. There used to be cliffs that were overlooked your expansion right here, where Terran players would love to just park a couple of siege tanks and just take pot shots at the expansion. It was very difficult to deal with from the Zerg player's point of view, and so they just adapted it, made it a little bit more interesting. And and they also, what they did is there used to be like two watchtowers here and here, and I can tell you actually from personal experience, what you would do in a Terran versus Terran is you could just take one watchtower, and you would have vision of the entirety of their opening to their base, so you could just sit and like have a siege line defending the watchtower, and it's very hard to move a Terran player off of a watchtower, because normally how you push a siege line is either by spreading it out, which you can't do if you're being contained, unless you just like do drops, basically is all you can do to defend against it, or you just do it with vision by winning the Viking War, having more Vikings, and using the Vikings to provide vision to push your siege tanks up, because siege tanks can fire longer than they can shoot. This is the critical moment of the game, whether we see they're going for any sort of fast expansion. I would say it's relatively rare to go for a gasless fast expand on Shattered Temple. I've tried it with disastrous results, but it's certainly possible to do. And actually, I don't see gas from either player right now, so it looks like both players are going. As soon as I say it's rare, naturally both players decide to do a gasless fast expand, as neither player's gotten his gas yet. So we will see at least longer game than the previous two, because both players will be getting a relatively fast second, and there won't be any sort of quick, harassment to end the game. Ooh, we do see gas going down for, I guess it's just going to be a gas after the orbital command, so it's a little bit of a delayed gas. That's something that's somewhat rare to do, actually. I've seen like timings like this. So what you do is, as soon as the command center finishes, and then you have 150 minerals, you're going to have your 100 gas to start your factory. So it delays your command center just a little bit at the expense of getting a factory, but it requires almost super precise timing. So you already see the command center started now for Marine King Prime, because he hasn't gotten his gas yet, and then I'm sure he'll be getting double gas right afterwards, unless he gets double barracks and then gets his gas. Nope, we see one gas, and will we see the second gas? Okay, it looks like he's only going to be getting one gas, so we might be focusing a little bit more barracks heavy right away. And meanwhile, the command center started now, and then as soon as he gets to 150 minerals, I'm relatively certain that we're going to be seeing a factory going down for the STC. And yeah, look at how perfectly timed that is. 150 minerals, 100 gas, and the factory goes down. Nice timing for the STC. That requires a lot of practice to be able to develop something like that. But it does delay your command center just a little bit, which delays SCVs, delays your second orbital, which delays the energy on the second orbital. So it's less economical of a build, but it's a little bit faster in terms of getting siege tanks out, in terms of getting banshees out, in terms of getting, whatever you decide to go out, whatever forces you end up going with. Meanwhile, Marine King Prime possibly doing a little bit more of his traditional build. He's actually going for 3 barracks, which means it looks like he's probably going for a more heavy Marine Marauder mix, which Marine King Prime, the reason he's Marine King Prime, and he was made famous by the GSL in which he got to the finals, and he did it on the backs of Marine Marauder dropship, which is medevac play, and just like being extremely efficient with those in Terran versus Terrans, which there was relatively rare to go that strategy in a Terran versus Terran, just because siege tanks can devastate your army so often. But actually, a lot of people on the Team Prime have started adopting that as well, and it's very interesting to watch that kind of play, and I guess it's very cool that, these are trying different types of play. Meanwhile, the SCC, we see him getting a starport as well, so it looks like, he could be getting a starport just for Vikings, or potentially for, or it could be for something like for harassment, or it could potentially just be for medevacs, to do a drop, or to, just try to heal up your infantry after getting a stim pack or something like that. But we do see siege tanks coming out, so it looks like the STC is going for a siege tank focused build. Oh, by the way, I did look it up. This is actually from the FXOopen, so these are real matches, and they definitely matter. It wasn't just some sort of fun skirmish game that the players were playing. Meanwhile, we do see a scan going down from both players, actually, and they saw exactly what they needed to see. Both players now know exactly what the other is going. He saw the starport, the factory, the the Factory with Attack Lab, the Barracks, and the Command Center. And that's all he needed to see. Meanwhile, the scan, now the Command Center's moved now, but I believe he saw the Command Center as well in air being lifted. And even if he didn't see the Command Center, he knew that he was going he knew that he was going gasless fast expand as well, so he could guess exactly what Marine King Prime was doing. But we do see a little push out from Marine King Prime, and actually this push out could be pretty deadly. Siege mode has just started, which means he has to wait for a little bit longer than a full minute, and those troops are going to get here a lot faster than it is. And actually, the STC needs to put out some bunkers right away, otherwise he's just going to lose to this. And combat shield has finished. Combat shield full minute shorter now, and they're going to go ahead and engage. Meanwhile, the STC needs to pull a lot of SCBs to be able to deal with this. Marines and Marauders have a big advantage against siege tanks when siege tanks aren't sieged. The medevac did in fact come out of the starport, so it was for medevacs. He wants to snipe that Marauder. There we go. Nice job from the STC. Very nice control. Meanwhile, the Marines are doing scoot and shoot. They're going to try to take out that siege tank. And it looks like he should lift up. The STC should lift up that siege tank and try to get it away. Well, no, he doesn't need to lift it up anymore. It looks like Marine King Prime is just going to move back. He's going to take out the supply depot, possibly that. Oh, no, it's a neutral supply depot, isn't it? Yep, this is the MLG version of the map, which has neutral supply depots. That doesn't matter much in a Terran versus Terran. It's designed to stop pylon block-ins. Meanwhile, siege mode did finish, which is going to give SCC a much better chance of holding this off. However, all of his SCVs are going to be taken out in this match. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. He was able to save 2 of them, but he was able to move the siege tank down. He needs to lift up the orbital, however. I don't know why he's sending the SCVs back in. And he's heated up that tank. And it looks like he's going to clear up this little attack without too much trouble, and able to take out one more SCV. We'll go to the workers killed tab. We see that he did kill 12 workers. It's a very big significant difference. He's actually 14 workers ahead, Marine King Prime is, which is a big difference. You know, like if you think about, I know you don't count mules as part of the economy, but if you're lacking the mules, right, like he has like 30% more harvesting. That's pretty good advantage. And we actually only see, is it 1 gas on each? No, we got 2 gas at home and 1 gas here. Even if you're, he's getting siege tanks as well. So he's not going his normal build in which he eschews siege tanks entirely in favor of Marines and Marauders, but he's getting a Marine and Marauders somewhat heavy kind of force. I think he might have, it's possible he's given that up. I haven't seen Marine King Prime really go heavy like super heavy Marines and Marauders where that's all he gets, and those in dropships before, medevacs, before in a long time. So it's possible he's just going for, he just goes Marines and Marauders kind of heavy builds, but he still gets siege tanks just because he recognizes how effective those are when they're deployed. And he's going to be elevatoring up to the top, and the STC is actually not going to be noticing this at all, so he's probably going to send the medevac back and forth. He's going to get a bunch of troops up here. He's going to set up the siege tank, and that's going to be very hard to dislodge. The STC has no idea that this is happening, and he's probably going to he might even get all of these guys up there even before the STC realizes it, but he has to make sure those errant guys don't get picked off right there. Meanwhile, we see siege mode from Marine King Prime, but now OGSTheSTC recognizes after he sees the siege tank fire, and they're going to move ahead. They're going to snipe that siege tank. It's going to get repaired, but it's not going to matter. It's going to be taken out. Meanwhile, the SCVs are attacking to deal as much damage as possible. Nice siege tank blast, though, did a lot of damage, blowing apart those Marines and Marauders, and looks like Marine King Prime is going to deal a lot of damage, going to kill even more SCVs, and actually it looks like the STC just realizes that he's in a hopeless situation. He's got 2 siege tanks, 2 Marines. Well, actually he's 4 siege tanks. It looks like he's giving up a little bit more early. Like, certainly this is a hard position to come back from, especially against a player of Marine King Prime's caliber, but the STC certainly could have repositioned his siege tanks, up along like this kind of a line, and should have been able to deal mostly with the STC's, Marine King Prime's forces, but he certainly was behind. He decided that he was so far behind that he wasn't going to be able to come back from Marine King Prime, and actually Marine King Prime was just about to get stim, which stim makes dealing with siege tanks so much easier, because if the siege tanks ever unsiege, you can just stim up and move forward and deal a lot of damage. So it looks like Marine King Prime is going to win this series, this best of 5 from the FXOopen, and this is really a terrific series. It's certainly very interesting builds that we saw from Terran versus Terran, especially the proxy racks. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. Especially at the pro players level. So this is Marine King Prime, and I'm going to be signing off. I'll see you guys next time. Just realized, I think I just called myself Marine King Prime. This is PGO Milncraft signing off. Now I'm leaving for real.